now I'd like to welcome Stan Lee to the show. Stan, welcome on board the Comic Zone.
Hey, thanks, Vince. It's good to be here. You know, that song sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, you think so?
I've heard that before. It's real catchy. I'd like to learn the words.
That's fantastic. Hey, Stan, before we get into the interview, I just wanted to share a story about my first encounter with you. I doubt you'd even remember it.
When was it?
It was actually at a comic convention. I think it was a Chicago Comic-Con. It was some type of dinner event. And the thing that stuck with me over the years that I remember most about it was when I met you, Stan, you're a very important guy in our business and don't have a lot of time, but you took the time out to come up to me and say hello, and you made me feel like it was as important for you, and you were excited to meet me as I was excited to meet you. And I'll never forget that, and I just wanted to thank you for that. It was really, really a special time for me, and it was just when I was getting started in the business.
Well, bless your heart. I probably was excited to meet you. You were probably the only non-hostile guy there.
Hey, Stan, tell me a little bit about the early days at Timely. That's where you started off. For anybody who doesn't know, Timely was a company. Before Marvel was Marvel, it was Atlas, and before that it was Timely back in the late 30s, early 40s. Tell us a little bit about what it was like in those days.
They used to draw the comics by scratching them on the walls of caves. That was quite a while ago. Well, it was a very small staff when I came to work there. There were two guys, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, and I was hired as a guy to write some extra copy when they needed it. And also I went down and I got them their coffee, and I ran errands, and I erased the pages, and I felt I was lucky to be in the great world of publishing.
Now, how old were you? About 16, 17 years old when this started?
I was about 17, yeah.
17?
Yeah.
And
16 and a half, 17, something like that.
The first text you ever wrote, the first story you ever wrote was a Cap story in Cap number 3. It was a 3-page text story.
Right. You've got a good memory.
Do you remember anything about that? Or
you know why I wrote that story? It was the funniest thing. The post office had a rule. You see, the publishers used to send the magazines out. They used to ship the magazines, and they got a special low rate at the post office by sending them in bulk. So the postage was cheaper than if they sent them any other way. But you had to be classified as a magazine to get that cheap rate.
I see.
And in a comic book, if you didn't have 2 pages of text material, if it was only comics, you couldn't qualify as a magazine, and you had to pay a lot more for the postage. So in order to get the cheap postage rate, they always had somebody write a little 2-page story with no panels, just text. And nobody read those stories. They were only put in there to satisfy the post office. So naturally, they got the youngest kid, the dumbest kid who didn't matter at all, and said, "Hey, kid, you write the story," and that was me. That was the first story I wrote. Of course, I wrote it magnificently, not knowing how unimportant it was.
Exactly. Now, when you were growing up in New York City, what were you reading? What kind of comic books or strips were you reading as a child?
The strange thing is, I didn't read any superhero type things. There were very few of those. Most of the comic books in the early days were reprints of newspaper strips, like Little Orphan Annie and Dick Tracy and the Cats and Jamma Kids and a lot of things you never heard of. But mainly I didn't read comics that much. I read regular books, Tarzan, H.G. Wells, Conan Doyle, things like that. I just read normal books.
Were these writers your influences when you started to think that you wanted to be a writer?
Oh, absolutely. But every writer, the funny thing is, I think everybody is the sum total of all the things he's read and seen and heard in his life. Everything that you've observed becomes an influence on you later on, and certainly all the books I read must have been influential.
I would imagine that's true. I remember the late, great Julie Schwartz sharing a story at a San Diego American Association of Comic Book Collector dinner that we had, this is probably about 5 years ago, about how he believes he was to thank for the Marvel Age of Comics.
He believed what?
He believed he was the one to thank for the Marvel Age of Comics.
Why
Something
is that?
about a golf game he told you about.
Oh,
Justice League.
yeah.
What was your inspiration about, first of all, what are your recollections about Julie Schwartz, and also what are your earliest memories of how you and Jack came up with the FF?
Well, the FF was, I was about to quit. I had been at Marvel or Timely or whatever the hell they called it at that time. I had been there for, 20 years, something like that. And I felt this is no business for a grown man. I want to go out where the grown-ups are now. I want to get out of this business. And I was tired of writing stories where my publisher said, don't worry about characterization and don't have words longer than 2 syllables. You're writing for young kids. They won't understand it. And I was frustrated. So my wife said to me, look, if you're going to quit anyway, why don't you write a book the way you'd like to write it? The worst that'll happen is you'll get fired, and what do you care? You want to quit. So that ties in with the Julie Schwartz story, because I don't remember Julie telling me that. Maybe it was Julie who told me, but apparently my publisher, Martin Goodman at the time, he had played golf with the publisher of DC, which was then called National Comics. I think a fellow named, oh God, now I forgot his name, but Roy, who's on next, he'll remember his name. And he had said to Martin, you know, the Justice League is one of our best-selling books. Boy, it's doing so well. And the Justice League, of course, was a bunch of superheroes banded together. So Martin came back from that golf game and said to me, Stan, why don't you do a book about a bunch of superheroes? So I figured, well, this is my chance to do what my wife Joan had suggested. I'll do the book, but I'll do it the way I want to do it. So I decided to do it where they don't have secret identities, and the girl isn't just a helpless girl who has to be rescued by the hero all the time. I gave her a superpower, too, and I made the obligatory teenager a relative. He's the girl's brother and would eventually become the brother-in-law of the hero. And I got one of the members of the group to be a semi-monster, you know, the Thing.
Right.
And I tried to give them a real relationship where they didn't always get along well together, and they argued, and the Thing and the Torch or Johnny Storm, they were always fighting in a friendly way. Right. And I tried to make it as realistic as possible. And I told Jack just what I wanted, and he drew it magnificently, and it turned out to be pretty damn good.
Now, two of my favorite artists, Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, you worked alongside these two legends constantly. What were the differences between working with Jack and working with Steve?
Excuse me a minute.
No problem.
Just getting over a lousy cold. And there was no difference at all. They were both almost the same. They were the easiest guys to get along with. They were the utmost professionals. They were never late with a job. Every job they handed in was their best work. They never shirked. They never just batted something out. I mean, I cannot praise the two of them enough.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, every time I pick up an early Marvel, it's one of those two guys that I'm sitting there oogling over their artwork. It's just magnificent.
Yeah, I was the luckiest guy living to be able to work with them, and because they made my stories look so great.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think it was a combination. There's definitely something magical going on back then between the two of you.
Yeah, I think there was.
Tell me, do you have any inside scoop for us on the upcoming Hulk movie? They're going to be doing a Hulk 2 movie, I hear, is in the works.
No, I don't know any more about it than anyone else. I'm not really privy to the news story. The one thing I did do was I saw the Fantastic Four script, and I think it's pretty damn good.
Oh, excellent. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were very worried that they were going to... I heard that they were trying to make it into like a Hard Day's Night, Beatle-esque type of movie, and I thought that could be a big disaster.
Oh, I don't understand that at all. No, it's a regular, great Spider-Man type movie.
All right. Speaking of Spider-Man, we've got Spider-Man 2 coming out actually tomorrow night at midnight.
Right.
Yeah. So I heard you were in it again.
Yeah, but if you blink your eye, you'll miss me.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a starring role, although strangely enough, I think they have my name in the credits, which is kind of funny.
That's great. What did you think of the movie? You got to see it last week?
It's great. You're going to love it.
Yeah. All the reviewers are saying it's better than the first one.
Yeah. Well, I really don't know if it's better because I love the first one too, but it's every bit as good.
Stan, when I was a little kid, my mom bought me a compilation of Spider-Man stories, and I remember reading the story to Amazing Fantasy 15, and the thing that struck me, and I remember to this day, I had a tingle going up and down my spine when I read "With great power comes great responsibility." Did you take that from somewhere? Was that a philosopher, or is that something that just came to your mind, or is...
No, it's the funniest thing. It just came to my mind. I never thought it would be anything that might be that memorable. I'm glad it is.
Yeah.
In fact, it's a funny thing. The Attorney General of the state of Rhode Island, he came to see me. He wanted me to go to Rhode Island for the opening ceremony of his office because he has that on the wall of the building where his office is. He thought so much of that phrase that, and he's making a big ceremony out of it.
Oh,
I was very pleased.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's something that whenever I have a chance to, if like I had my nephews at a comic convention a few months back, and they had a film crew from the Discovery Channel doing a special about comic books, and I sat there and I read them Amazing Fantasy 15. My nephew's eyes were like lit up as I was telling him the story about how Spider-Man got his powers, and it was just a fantastic feeling to be able to share that with another generation of kids, you know, that are going to be hopefully really big into comic books.
Well, you got another generation now because you got me all keyed up. I'm going to go back and reread it myself.
Hey, do you read any new books that come out, or are you still into comics?
I just don't have the time. Yeah. No, I haven't read a comic book in a long time.
No, I remember.
I kind of regret it. I wish I had the time, but there's just too many other things to do.
You know, that's one of the great things about being in New York City. I take the train into work every day, so I try to get a couple of comic books, and I'll just put them in my bag, and on the train I read them for 10, 15 minutes. People look at me like I'm a little crazy, but actually it's a lot better than it was 10 years ago. People really used to look at you like, what are you doing? You're a grown man and you're reading comic books. But nowadays, I see other people on the train reading.
Now, if you read a comic book and anybody sees you, they probably think you're a big producer looking for your next major movie.
Exactly. Now, when you were when you see all the different comic book movies that are being made nowadays, are there any characters that you created or collaborated on that are not currently in development that you say, wow, that would just be a great motion picture?
Believe it or not, I think every one of them are in development.
Really?
Yeah.
I did see, I was just at the licensing show, and I passed by the Marvel booth, and I was so happy they're going to be doing a Namor movie. The Ghost Rider is going to happen.
Yeah, and they're working on everything. Iron Man, Thor, it goes on and on. Iron Fist, almost anything you can mention, any character of Marvel. The Black Panther, on and on, every one of them.
Oh, yeah.
They're all in development.
You know what? I can't wait.
Nor can I.
I've been waiting for the Spider-Man movie, and I'm just so jazzed up about it.
Oh, you're going to love it.
Yeah.
See, of course, the reason I'm so excited about all these movies, it means a chance to do a few more cameos.
There you go.
I want to be known as King of the Cameos.
Now, there's also a lot of villains that you've created over the years.
A lot of villains?
A lot of villains.
I tried my best.
Yeah. Any villains that you remember as being villains that really are close to your heart, characters that you said, wow, this one's really good when you came up with it.
I loved them all. I think Dr. Doom is probably my favorite, because what I liked about him was he was king of his own country, and he had diplomatic immunity, so he couldn't get arrested for anything. And I also liked the idea, although they didn't play it up enough in the books, but I also liked the idea that all he wanted to do was rule the world. Now, if you think about it, you could be a litter bug, drop a piece of paper in the street, and a cop might come over and give you a warning or a citation, or you could be a jaywalker, and a policeman would stop you and give you a ticket. But you could walk up to a cop and say, "Officer, I want to rule the world." That's not a crime. I mean, no, they can't do anything to you for that. So the poor guy. I mean, Dr. Doom is actually the most innocent villain you could think of.
I never thought about it that way.
Oh, yeah, you've got to think deeply. You see, there's great social significance in all of these things, and you got to look beneath the surface of everything I've ever written.
Yeah, well, hey, why not? That sounds reasonable to me. I definitely learned quite a few lessons. Spider-Man is by and far my favorite character from Marvel. Now, it was something interesting about Spider-Man that occurred to me the other day. He wears a mask. It covers his face completely. Mm-hmm. And I was always wondering, do you think that the idea that the mask covers his face all the time allows for the reader to project their own face or themselves into the character. It almost gives you this ability to become the superhero.
Spider-Man could be listed as the superhero who could be you, because not only is the face covered up, but you don't see any flesh or skin anywhere, no hands, feet, no skin, which means if you are Asian, if you are black, if you're an Indian, no matter what your skin color, you could imagine that that's you under that costume. And I think that's one of the reasons he's so popular around the world. And that wasn't intentional. I had nothing to do with it. That's the way Steve Ditko designed the costume. I don't know whether he was thinking of it consciously when he did it, but it was a great choice that he made in covering his whole body.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic design for a superhero costume. Mm-hmm. I read recently, got some information in the mail that said that they're gonna be doing a big story on you in Variety magazine. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, they always have special issues where they play up one person, Tom Cruise or Steven Spielberg. And now finally they got to the top. They
finally got you to fit them in your schedule, right?
No, it's just, I think it'll come out at the time of the comic book convention in San Diego. And they're having sort of a comic book issue. So they're going to devote a lot of space to me because they must have run out of other people to write about. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it'll be fun.
I think it'll be interesting. I always know whenever I pick up any type of mainstream newspapers or magazines and see an article about comic books, it's very exciting to see our hobby and our business becoming more and more accepted.
Oh, and much more so now. In fact, the comic book convention in San Diego is attended by almost everybody in the movie business looking for their next big idea for a movie. Variety and the Hollywood Reporter and all the trade papers play up comics tremendously.
Well, from what I understand, it's a tremendous way for them to market in a grassroots manner where they can hit people who are diehard fans.
Absolutely,
and it gets the word out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are you going to be at the Comic-Con this year?
Yeah, I usually go to promote something. I'm not sure exactly what I'll be promoting, but I'll be there.
Speaking of promoting, now, you're working on a lot of different things nowadays. Mm-hmm. It's not just cameos in the Marvel movies, but what else do you have going? What's
Well, I formed a new company called Pow P-O-W exclamation point Entertainment, and I'm sure you've already figured out that Pow stands for Purveyors of Wonder. And I've got a million.
Exactly what I thought.
I got a million projects on my plate, really. I'm working with a bunch of A-list writers, producers, and actors, and we're creating movies and television shows for networks, cable, studios, and it's great. And I've just taken POW public. Our symbol is POWN, so from here on, the sky's the limit.
Wow, that's for the POWM as in Mary?
N as in Nancy.
Nancy, there you go.
We're just starting. There isn't much going on now, but there will be as time goes by.
And you already made a public offering with it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic.
And we have a number of projects in the works. I'm doing one with Hugh Hefner. It's called Hef Super Bunnies. And you'll learn the real truth about Hugh Hefner. See, nobody knows that he's really a secret agent, and this business of women and sex, that's just a front.
Kind of like a
cover up for the work he really does. And we're doing a couple of movies, and we're doing some animated things, and it'll all be announced later on as we move further along.
That sounds fantastic. Is there a website?
We're just starting one now.
Okay.
There's
Any
a
idea what
company
the name
called IDT, which owns Film Roman and some other animation companies, and they bought a little share in our company, so they're setting up a website for us. I don't think they're finished yet.
Stan, when you were developing characters over the years and storylines, was there ever a story that you tried to pitch early on that was never accepted? You couldn't sell it no matter how hard you tried, and you still have that in your back pocket?
Nope, I'm a very good pitchman. They accept everything. No, seriously, though. The only one that came close to that was Spider-Man. That was the hardest thing to get across.
Wow.
My publisher hated the idea at first.
That is so strange.
He didn't feel that a superhero could be a teenager or should have problems. It was, or could be called Spider-Man. He felt people hate spiders. How can you call a hero Spider-Man?
Yeah, well, that's surprising. I could think of a couple other heroes that I would thought were less marketable than Spider-Man at the time, but that is amazing to hear. I got to ask you the standard questions to ask Stan Lee. I'm sure you've been asked these questions a million times. Can you tell us your favorite character that you've created over the years?
Well, I'm going to have to say Spider-Man because he's the most popular and the most well-known, and I'd be an idiot not to mention him. But really, I love them all. When I was writing them, whichever one I was writing at the moment, that was my favorite because I was into it, you know.
I remember reading a Son of Origins that you wrote the forward to in the 70s, and it had a compilation of all the different characters' origins. And you had mentioned Daredevil was your favorite at the time.
Mm-hmm. And I must have been writing it at the time.
There you go. It had something to do with the fact that you had created a superhero from a handicapped person, and that was the fact that his handicap was his special power.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, I love Daredevil. And I must say, when I did him, I was a little bit afraid that handicapped people, especially blind people, might resent it because they say, what the hell are you doing, having a guy who's blind able to do things better than a sighted man? You know, it's ridiculous. But I got a million letters and calls from charities for blind people saying how much they loved it. They were reading these stories to the blind people, and they loved it. So that made me very happy.
Yeah, I would think it'd be an empowering character for handicapped people everywhere.
Yeah, well, I guess they took it that way, and oh, what a relief it was for me.
Your favorite female character that you created?
Oh, I don't know. I never thought about it.
I figured that might be a new one for you.
I don't know. Maybe Sue Storm.
Yeah.
Only because she's the first one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. She was a great character, and I love the way she's really developed over the last couple of decades, and she's really, really a character that I can see young female comic book fans looking up to. We had a block party I live in Park Slope in Brooklyn, and this past weekend we had a block party. I invited a friend of mine who's an animator for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he started drawing pictures, and he had a couple of comic books that he's worked on, and he showed them to the little girls, and he asked, well, what character would you like me to draw a picture? And they crave a female role model, and there were all these male characters, and there was one female character, and she pointed right to the female character, and that's what she wanted. And I think it's a great thing that a lot of these characters like Spider-Girl and Batgirl are becoming really popular nowadays. We have the Catwoman movie coming out too.
That's right, yeah. Well, that's what I think this world needs, more and more role models, good role models, of course.
Yeah. If you had to choose one thing to be remembered for, what would it be?
Oh, boy. The fact that I'm so adorable, maybe. I don't know. I never think about that.
Well,
I don't know.
I think you're going to be remembered for hundreds and hundreds of years and thousands of years to come as a legendary creator and a fantastic creative mind.
Just so long as you keep the phrase "living legend," I like that.
There you go.
Together. Thanks very much.
You're gonna be with us for a long time. I know it.
Great. Listen, I feel with this interview, I have really peaked. Because at last I've made it. I'm going to be the opening act for Roy Thomas.
Yes, you are. And speaking of Roy, we'd like to bring Roy on. He wanted to say hello to you.
Great. I wanted you to give him my regards. He's a great guy and a terrific editor, a wonderful writer, and a damn nice human being.
Hey, Roy, did you hear that?
We're a little late, folks. Good night. Yeah, no, I heard it. That's great. Hello, Stan.
Oh, he was listening? Now I'm embarrassed.
You're on the radio, sort of.
Son of a gun. All right, I will take off because I want Roy to have this all to himself.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Stan. We really appreciate it. I'll see you out in Comic-Con this summer.
Okay, I'll be talking to you, Roy. Not dead.
Right.
Okay, so long, guys. I introduce and Eddie. Take care of yourselves.